Yo, what is up YouTube? Lee the Captain here, and I'm going to be talking about in today's video as to what could hypothetically happen next week because you know what? They recently made a post saying how there's more details on a big announcement next week. So I'll get into that, give my thoughts, and I first want to clarify though, nothing I say is financial advice and I'm not telling anyone to do anything. But they first start off this post by saying how yesterday was a big day for Zebec at XRP Las Vegas. Agreed, because after all, Simon did announce a Ripple partnership. And of course, we have to understand as well, right? When it comes to that partnership, it did have an aspect of payrolls, which we do know that when it comes to Zebec, it's very focused on that. So of course, seeing that partnership overall and having an aspect of payrolls, I think if anything, it kind of bolsters sort of Zebec's focus on that, right? It kind of, I think, solidifies it a lot more. So I do like that. But let's get into the more interesting part. So basically, this post stated how straight after, Simon was a keynote speaker at XRP Las Vegas, he joined Paul Barron for an interview. And the thing is, again, they say that, we have to stay tuned for the full interview and how there's more details on a big announcement next week. Now, when it comes to what this announcement could be, there's two things I'd like to speculate though. The first one being, I would assume, that they're going to be officially posting about the Ripple partnership because as of right now, they haven't posted anything really in regard to that, which is very surprising, right? Because this is, I think, arguably their biggest partnership to date. I really do believe that. I mean, sure, the Stellar partnership was awesome, it was cool, but it's not bigger than that, right? Not bigger than a Ripple partnership. So maybe, Zebec is taking a page out of Stellar's book, right? What do I mean by that? Do you remember back then when Stellar had a partnership with Zebec and then Stellar waited for quite a while to make an announcement regarding that, whereas Zebec kind of did it somewhat instantly? So, yeah, maybe, I don't know. Zebec wants to take a page out of Stellar's book. But yeah, I mean, whatever the case may be, I find it a little bit bizarre, right, that Zebec hasn't actually posted about that Ripple partnership because they usually do it pretty quick. But I'm not that concerned though. And again, if they're talking about more details on a big announcement next week, I'm assuming that it's probably gonna have to be about the Ripple partnership or them officially making a post about that. Now, what is the second scenario? Now, the second scenario could be if it's not that, right? I think it could be maybe something else. Who knows, right? Because they say more details on a big announcement next week. So maybe it's something in addition to the Ripple partnership, which would, of course, be really awesome if that was the case. But I mean, we'll wait and see. Those are two of my speculations, though, as of right now. I'm leaning more towards them making a post officially about the Ripple partnership. That's the one that I think makes a lot more sense. The kind of, I guess, alternate beyond that, right? I guess would probably be, them announcing something else, which, I don't have such a good belief in that. But you know what? Who knows? Maybe, right? Maybe they might announce something a little bit different. Who knows? This is all just a speculation on my part as of right now. But again, just based off of the recent Ripple partnership announcement, I would assume that, of course, it might hypothetically have to be about an official announcement regarding the Ripple partnership. But again, we'll have to wait next week because that's what they said. But even besides that, people like to tell me that, wow, when it comes to Zebec, this partnership really didn't do much at all when it comes to the charts. They like to say that. In which case, I kind of agree with that because it's been down almost 8% in the past 24 hours. But again, remember what I mentioned in my last video? I said that even if, let's say, the impact wasn't seen immediately when it comes to the charts, it wasn't something I was overly concerned about anyways, because what I think about is what could this impact in regard to Zebec in the long term, right? I think if anything, a Ripple partnership, if the market conditions aren't the best, if that's announced, it probably wouldn't maybe do so much to the charts, but we have to think about the future implications that could have. This is my perspective. And actually, as a result of that Ripple partnership, just like I surmised from my last video, I was kind of thinking, oh, you know what? Maybe there was going to be a hypothetical increase in the amount of holders, like what we saw in the case of Stellar, in which case, remember when Zebec had a partnership with Stellar, and then soon after that, we saw the amount of holders like steadily increase from around 96,000 to over 100,000. But as of right now, we're almost seeing 104,000 holders. Now, from around 103,000 to around 104,000, it may not seem like too much, But I think that's a slight impact maybe in regard to the Ripple partnership. Because remember, again, in one of my previous videos, I mentioned how XRP currently has around 500,000 holders, so around a half a million holders, basically, right? I just said, right, if like let's say 10% of that maybe looked into Zebec, so around 50,000 holders, assuming that maybe they haven't really looked at Zebec, that would already be like a pretty massive amount considering that Zebec approximately has around 100,000 holders. If there's 50,000 maybe more holders in a random hypothetical, that's already pretty massive. That's already like a 50% increase. Now, we haven't seen that as of right now, but I'm just saying, if there's more eyeballs when it comes to Zebec, that I think could, be a good thing, I suppose. Now, people like to say, but yeah, why hasn't that happened? Well, I think it doesn't mean it will happen. And also, second of all, I think also on top of that, not only hasn't Zebec made an announcement about this officially, again, not only have they not done that yet, but also Ripple hasn't made an announcement in regard to this as well. So if like someone isn't really kind of paying attention to Zebec, if they're not really kind of at that event or whatever, or let's say they're not really in the know about, what's going on basically in regard to Zebec or Ripple, they might not know about this, right? Like I'm assuming that a lot of people out there that hold Zebec, it doesn't seem like, maybe they heard about this because I was talking to some of my friends out there and they believe in Zebec and they didn't initially know that Zebec actually did have a partnership with Ripple because it wasn't like announced anywhere. That was the thing in terms of an official one. Now, of course, we saw people post random clips and stuff like that. Like, for instance, I saw a clip from the Zebec Nation podcast in regard to that. But I'm just saying, when it comes to, like, let's say, a lot of people who probably don't search about this type of stuff, maybe they haven't known about this partnership coming into existence yet, even though it actually already has. So yeah, it's been kind of a little bit hidden, but I'm just assuming if, let's say, Ripple announces it or let's say Zebec announces it, I'm assuming that, at that point, there's probably going to be a little bit more sort of attention in regard to this partnership. So I don't think it's a bad thing at the end of the day. Now, granted, is everything going to always have an immediate impact? No, I mean, the market isn't doing the best, but at the same time, when it comes to Zebec, it's still a very monumental achievement. Zebec is focused on instant payrolls, keep in mind, right? This is a little bit different than like the traditional way we think about payrolls. In which case, like, let's say when I was working back in college, I was getting like, my income every 2 weeks basically. But, instant payrolls, I don't have to wait 2 weeks. It's like literally while I'm doing my job and then it's like instant like that. There's two ways to think about it though, right? Some people may not like it, some people may like it because, imagine me back then in college if I was like getting it instantly like that. At that point, I'd have to take the priorities into my own hands, right? Like in a sense where if it's like every 2 weeks, like I know, okay, I need to save up for rent at that time. It was more like controlled. In which case, if it was like every day like that, like just instantly when I was working, who knows, right? I mean, would the discipline be the same? That's kind of questionable because some of my friends out there, I know that personally, if they maybe got it like instantly like that, I don't know if they would have saved up for their rent or something, especially back in college. But I'm just saying that was a completely different time. But I'm just saying, people like to say, yeah, but not everyone might like instant payrolls. I totally agree with that. But at least there's the option. It's like, for instance, in the case of a convertible. I mean, it's fun, I guess, but I don't find it that practical. And I find that, some of the more kind of vintage convertibles or the ones that have been kind of like neglected, like usually there's some leaks and stuff like that. Yeah, I don't know, right? I'm just personally not such a big fan about convertibles, but there are people who do like it a lot. Like I know a lot of my friends out there that like that, but at least the option exists for the ones that do. It's like, for instance, in the case of instant payrolls, does it mean everyone will like it? Probably not. But at the same time, if let's say someone does like it, let's say an enterprise for whatever reason does like that, at least the option is there. So I like how Zebec is giving more options. It doesn't mean that everyone's going to care about it. It doesn't mean that it's going to be an instantaneous hit, even though actually Zebec so far already has well over 100 payroll enterprise clients. We've already seen that in their latest report that they released. I even made a video on that. But besides that, at least, over 100, I guess, enterprises do care about that aspect in regard to Zebec. So it's not that bad, I assume. I mean, sure. it doesn't have the best adoption of all time, but I'm just saying at least the option exists. That's the way to take a look at it. I mean, is everyone gonna like, Timberland boots? Maybe not, right? Maybe some people out there might not want to use boots. Sometimes they want to use, let's say, Brooks, like the shoes, right? Or let's say like Saucony, or let's say Hoka, or let's say Nike, Adidas. I mean, there's a bunch of options, but at least the options are there. So I kind of view it no different when it comes to what Zebec is doing in regard to payrolls, or should I say more specifically, instant payrolls. So again, ultimately seeing Zebec have a partnership in regard to Ripple and then having an aspect of payrolls, I just think it was pretty cool. So, of course, I'm going to be making more updates moving forward. So hopefully y'all stay tuned for that. And hopefully I'll see y'all on the next one. It's been Lee the Captain. I'm out. Peace. Bye.